Good evening. Thank you all for joining. So in today's session, we'll be discussing about convolutional neural network. So convolutional neural network is a special class of artificial neural network that is designed specifically to work with images. Whereas in case of artificial neural network, we were majorly working with vectors as input. But here, it's mainly used to work with images. They are the main architecture that is used for computer vision applications. So, unlike a regular ANN that accept vector input, CNN always accept images as input. And just like the artificial neural network, this also has input, weight, and bias. And again, the weights are estimated by some optimization function. And there are two key characteristics that separate a convolutional neural network from artificial neural network. That is this sparse connectivity and also parameter sharing or weight sharing. That is, in convolutional neural network, not every input is connected to every other output unit. And weight sharing is the network's weights are each shared between multiple connections. So we'll explain in detail what this means is. Uh, so another reason why convolutional neural network is also the amount or the number of weights is another reason. So, for example, if I have a 256 by 256 image, an RGB image, so it will have red, blue, and green channels, three channels. So it will be of size 256 by 256 by 3, and this is around a very large number. And if we keep on using these kind of, artificial neural network for processing these input, and if we consider every every neuron in the hidden layers are connected to every other neuron, there will be a large number of weights. There will be an explosion of weights if we use artificial neural network for handling such a rich amount of data. But then, so in this case, it's better to use a CNN because it makes use of these two properties, the sparse connectivity and also the parameter sharing. That is, sparse connectivity is each output neuron is connected to only a specific part of the input. And parameter sharing is you use the same kernel or filter in every part of the image. So now, convolutional neural network is widely used in image recognition, object detection, medical image analysis, then self-driving cars, etc. So first in the video, they start with talking about image parameterization. So all of us know that there are these grayscale images and also these color images, the RGB color images. So the grayscale image is just a 2D pixel of values between 0 to 255. But then RGB will have three different channels or three different input, each corresponding to a specific color. So this will have, so if, suppose if a grayscale image has a width of nx, and a length of ny. Then RGB will have the same NX and NY, but in addition to that, it will have three channel that represents red, green, and blue. So these are called as the channels, or this represents the depth. So this uh, 3D block of numbers, the input that has this dimension NX, NY, and also the channel, that is also called as the volume. Now, this in the video, they also briefly talk about the inspiration, the biological inspiration behind CMNs. So, there were two scientists, Hubel and Wiesel. They, in the 1960s, measured the activity in the primary visual cortex of cat, and they found two different types of cells, simple cells and complex cells. So simple cells, they get their input from the rods and cones of retina, and complex cells get the input from the simple cells. So the simple cells, they respond to certain. So one of the response from a specific type of simple cell was they were responding to specific edge orientation in the receptive field. So receptive field is uh, So receptive field is a small localized region in the retina. So the cell, if it is a simple cell, it computes the weighted linear combination of the input that comes in this receptive field. So what they found was the simple cells, they responded to specific edge orientation in the receptive field, whereas complex cells, they were getting the input from the simple cells, and they had like they were found to be translation invariant to edge movement. So what this means is so the mainly the it's like uh, they they take some input and then take a weighted linear combination like in neural network, but then they respond to an input in a specific way. So if edges are there, they respond in a specific way. If corners are there, the cells will respond in a specific way. So this is where the inspiration for convolutional neural network came from. Because we also, so in convolutional neural network also, when there is an image, we find in the image where the edges are, where the corners are, where certain shapes are, where certain patterns are. And this is done using some thing called as filters or kernels. Um, so this concept is inspired by this experiment by Hubel and Wiesel. Mm, So in traditional image processing, the kernels or filters are used to detect this edges. And I think most of you who might have done some image processing course might have come across filters like 1, -1 that are used to detect horizontal edges. So this is a 1 by 2 kernel or a filter that is used to detect if the image contains some horizontal edges. And then there are many other types of filters as well that are used to detect edges. For example, this 3 by 3 sober filter, it can detect edges at different orientation. So there are different types of this filters, and we make use of these filters to extract important information from the image so that we can classify or we can understand what happens or what is there in that image. Now, in convolutional neural network, the main uh, operation that is done is this convolution operation. So, the first thing that we discussed is weight sharing. So, I have told if there is, so we try to extract features from the images by applying certain filters. For example, one of them is horizontal edges, a filter that is used to find horizontal edges. So, when we use a filter to find certain property in the image, we use that same filter. We just use only one filter. For example, if we want to find horizontal edges, we just use that one filter throughout the image. So, if I have a 256 by 256 by 3 image, we use the same filter to find the horizontal edges in that image. So that is why it's called as weight sharing or parameter sharing. That is for each input, like unlike in artificial neural network where you had a neuron and the neuron is connected to every other neuron and there are weights for each of them. Unlike that, there is parameter sharing here. And this parameter sharing means that if you use a filter or a kernel that is used throughout that image. So if I have 256 by 256 image and if I want to use an edge filter 1 minus 1, this W1, W2 will be my weight throughout that image. So this is the parameter sharing means. Now coming to the main operation in convolutional neural network, which is the convolution operation. So it's like kind of like a dot product at each position in the input. So if this is your input X 12103 and you have a filter, a one-dimensional filter 0.5, 0.2. So at each position, you apply this filter. So for example, you have input 1, 2, then you find the dot product of this with this 0.5 and 0.2. So 1 into 0.5 plus 2 into 0.2. So that is 0.9. So the output is 0.9 for this position. Then you move the filter to the next position and again you do the same process, the dot product. So 2 into 0.5 plus 1 into zero point 0.2 and that will give you the output for the second position. Now similarly, we have the next position which is 1 0 and that is like a dot product is taken for that as well. So you get 0.5 as the output for that position and then you have 1 2 1 0 3 0.5 0.2. uh, so you get an output 0.6 for the fourth position. So this is how convolutional operation works for a simple one-dimensional input with a one-dimensional filter. Now suppose if I have an image, so this is my input image. And this is the filter that I am going to use 0.5, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. So what happens is just like before, we again do dot product. So 0.5 into 0.1, 0.2 into 0.2, 0.3 into 0.4, 0.4 into 0.5. And this when we do this operation, we get so we basically do a dot product between the individual elements and then so you multiply the individual elements and then add. So you get 0.41 here and then again you have to move this to next position which is shown here. So again you do the multiplication and summation. So then you get the next output. Then so it's like when we do the convolutional operation, we always move from left to right and top to bottom. So then So once this is done, then you move down and then you again repeat the convolution operation where you multiply and then add, and then you move right and then again multiply and add. So then you get an output. Now there are many things that control this. Here I moved one step right and also one step down. So I can control all these factors. I can move two steps right. I can move uh, uh, three steps right. I can move two steps down. So all this has some definition. So we will come across this later. So this is how simple convolution works. So I'll give one simple question based on this. So there's an input sequence and this is given by 2, 1, 1, 7 minus 1, 2, 3, 1. And there is a convolutional filter and the filter is given as 3, 2, minus 1. Question is, what are the first two output values? So you take one step to the right all the time. So then you have to find what are the first two output values. Two, 1, 1, 7 minus 1, 2, 3, 1. Yeah, correct. 7 minus 2. So you have x is equal to 2, 1, 1, 7 minus 1, 2, 3, 1. So first output is y1 and this is your first three input that you should take. We have a kernel of size 1 by 3. So we take the first three input. So 3 into 2 plus 2 into 1 plus minus 1 into 1. 3 into 2 plus 2 into 1 plus minus 1 into 1. So that is 7. Now for the second input, we move one step right. Then again do this operation. So 3 into 1, 2 into 1 minus 1 into 7. 3 into 1 plus 2 into 1 minus 1 into 7. So that is 5 minus 7 minus 2. Okay. Now this is for a 1D input. Now when we have a 2D input, so an example is, suppose if we have an input x is given by 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0. So this is the input and the filter or the kernel is given by 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1. The question is, what is the pixel value at 1 comma 1 of the resulting image or the resulting output? So you are given an input X and you are given a kernel 101010101. And now what? So when you do this operation, what is the first value that you get at this position? That is the question. So just like uh, how this was done, and how this value was got, you have to do it. Yeah. Answer is 4. So you take this 3 by 3 and then multiply by this 3 by 3. So you get 1 into 1 plus 0 into 1 plus 1 into 1, 0 into 0, 1 into 1, 1 into 0, 0 into 1, 0 into 1, 1 into 1. So there are 4 1 into 1s. So the answer will be 4. Okay. One activation function that we have come across was this sigmoid activation function, which had value between 0 and 1, and the equation was given by 1 by 1 plus e raised to minus x. Now, some other activation functions, there are so many activation functions. Just telling about two of them, tanh. I think there are, later we have videos that talks about activation function. So another is this tan h, which has a value between -1 and 1. If so, whenever we get an output x, if we apply this tan h activation function, it will make that output to be in the range -1 to 1. Whereas in case of ReLU, it will take the value x and make it in the range 0 to infinity. So it's like it will take either 0 or the input x, whatever is the maximum, that will be the output. So these are some activation function or non-linearity that you will come across. Now, in standard, so next thing is padding, why we need to pad. So without padding, if we do the convolution operation, it will reduce the size of the input. So after many layers, then the input will become very small to process. Now, one way to control this is to use padding. So how it works is by adding some rows of either we can add 0 values or we can add values at the nearest pixel, um, values at the edges. Okay. So in standard convolution, the size of the output image will reduce. So sometimes what we want is we want the output to match the input size. So in that cases, we do this padding. Either we append zeros so like this. So we add zeros here, or we add whatever is the edge value, we append that to the edges. How much we want to uh, increase the size of the image, that much we do the padding. So suppose if I have certain, uh, so suppose if I have input size nx and ny, and if I want to, in my output also, I want the same nx and ny, then there's a formula. Your padding size, your padding size should be whatever is the filter size k minus 1 by 2. So then you will have the uh, output size and the input size matching. Now, uh, the output size, okay, before that, when we do simple convolution operation, the output size, so the input size is nx into ny, then the output size will be nx minus k plus 1 into ny minus k plus 1, where k is the kernel or the filter size, 3 by 3, 5 by 5, etc. Now, this is without padding. So, without padding, the input size will reduce. Now, when it comes to with padding, if we want to maintain this input and output size to be same, then we have to use a padding of size p is equal to k minus 1 by 2. Then the output size with padding is given by this expression nx minus k plus 2 times p plus 1. So this will preserve the output size of the image. This is padding. Now coming to strided convolution. So stride means how many pixels that you should uh, uh, filter or skip at every step. So if stride is equal to 1 means, so suppose I have a 3 by 3 kernel. So I will apply the filter over this first. Then at the next step, if I apply the filter for this 3 by 3 input, then I will say that my stride is 1. So I moved one step in pixel terms. So, and if I suppose this is the black color one is my starting point, and the orange is where I have stride is 1. Suppose if I skip 2 steps, then if I start from here, then I will say the stride is 2. So it is the number of steps that you filter as you move from left to right or top to bottom. So why we want to use stride? So why do we want to use stride that is greater than or equal to 2? Is sometimes you want to reduce the size of the input image. In those cases, we use strided convolution, where the value is greater than or greater than or equal to 2. So it's a form of downsampling. Downsampling is when you reduce the size of the input. Whatever x you get, you reduce the size, then you say you are downsampling. So this is the strided convolution, where you take either stride of 1 or stride of 2, etc., depending on how you want to move forward. Then there is 3D convolution. So when we have multiple channel input, so we have seen the RGB images, we had 3 channels. So in those cases, we take a convolution along the channel, like a depth. So each of this channel, that is also considered as a depth of the image. So if we take convolution across the depth also, that we tell as volume convolutions or 3D convolutions. Now, so when we have stride greater than 1, we say it is a form of downsampling. Now, another way to do downsampling is via another layer called as pooling. This will also reduce the size of the input that this layer receives. So another thing is, if you use pooling, it will also make the model translation invariant. That means if we have some object in our image, and if the object is at different positions in the image, those small transformations will be that will not uh, like the position of the object will not be affected heavily if we use pooling layer. That is, it will make the model invariant to small transformation in the image because it summarizes what happens in a region. So it doesn't matter where the object is. So it summarizes the uh, feature maps of the so feature map is whatever output you get after a convolutional layer. Now there are many types of pooling. Two uh, techniques are defined. So for example, max pooling. Um, so here what happens is, so suppose if I have a 4 by 4 input image. So what happens in max pooling is in this, so the kernel or the filter size that is used here is 2 by 2. So it will take 2 by 2 sub matrix and then find what is the maximum value in this 2 by 2, and that is 6. So that is the first value. Again here, what is the maximum value? This is what happens in max pooling. And then, so there's a way of summarizing what happens. Another way to summarize is by using average pooling. So instead of taking the maximum value, you take the average. So for example, 1 plus 0 plus 4 plus 6 divided by 4. That will give you a summary of what are the values in that region of like 2 by 2 matrix. So that is average pooling. Okay. So most of the time, most commonly seen thing, if you have noticed here is, so I have used the 4 by 4 input and the kernel is 2 by 2. So most of the time, this is done in a non-overlapping way. That is, the you took this 1046, and then the next thing that you took is this one without any overlapping. This is one way of doing. You can do it with overlapping as well. But usually it's done in a common way like this. But then the other way is also it's done. Just telling because I just want to give an sample question. If the size of an input image to a pooling layer is 6 by 6. So the input size is 6 by 6 and kernel size is 2. Then the output size is what? So there is no overlapping, it's a non-overlapping. Like this, 6 by 6. So you take 2 at a time. Now I mentioned it is non-overlapping. Uh, so it will be 3 by 3. So you have 4 values inside. If you do average or max pooling, you get one value out. So you'll have A11, A12, A13, A21, A22, A23, A31, A32, A33. So if you use overlapping, then you have to go through each of the values. So I have A11, A12, A13, A14, A15, A16, A21, A22, A23. So you take this one first, then you take this one first, then you take this one first, then you take this one. So like that it will go. Okay. So we know this expression for output. So one question is, there is an input image of size 5 by 5 and kernel size is 3 by 3. Stride is, okay, I didn't mention about stride. Okay, then I'll first mention the formula for stride. Yeah, so these are some basic formulas. So uh, when you have a uh, simple convolution layer with stride 1, no padding, then you have this formula nx minus k plus 1, ny minus k plus 1. And with padding, we have this nx minus k plus 2p plus 1. Now, when we have stride also, then we have this formula where this indicates the floor operation where you take the lowest, you run round to the lowest integer. Okay. Now, so first I will do some, so whatever we have discussed, we will discuss some previous year assignment question. So one question is, what are the primary motivations for using convolutional neural network over traditional artificial neural network for image recognition? CNNs are simpler than ANNs. CNNs automatically learn relevant features and exploit spatial structure. ANNs cannot handle large dataset. CNNs always achieve higher accuracy. Yeah. So CNNs can automatically learn relevant features and can exploit the spatial structure in images. So rather than using, so if we have to use and then we have to flatten the 3 by 3. So if I have a 3 by 3 input image, then we have to flatten it to a 9 by 1 vector and then we have to give it to a model. But then when we have CNN, it will automatically make use of that spatial structure in the images and learn the features automatically. So uh, one example question. So for image classification, which of the following is not an advantage? Yeah, so which of the following is not correct with respect to CNN for image classification? It cannot guarantee 100% accuracy on any image data set, but all the others are correct for image classification. Another question is, so weight sharing is when we have an image, so we use this convolutional operation. So this is the kernel or the filter. So when you have an input image, uh, you use this same filter across the image. So it's like you are sharing the weight across the image. You don't use any additional parameter to learn each of the local region in the image. You use the same 2 by 2 weight across the image. But then the difference is when you do this, so we have different types of, so we want to learn in the image where the edges are, where the corners are, etc. So for each of this, you can use different types of filters. So K1, K2, then another type of filter, then another type of filter to learn something else. So you use different types of filter to learn different parameter. But then, so you have this input image nx, ny. So you use K1 filter, you move it across the image, you get an output. That output is called as a feature map. So you got this feature map by using the same kernel weight across the image. That is why it is called as parameter sharing. because you use the same weight across the image. Now, when you have another filter K2, K2 is moved across the image, but then it results in another output. That is second feature map. Then you use K3, it will result in another output. K4, it will result in another output. So this is called as the depth. So each of the kernel, so so when you consider it to an artificial neural network where you have different number of neurons in each layer, and you connect every neuron to every other neuron in the next layer, then you have a very large number of weights to learn. But here you don't have that. You have a kernel, and the kernel weights are shared across the image. So that is the parameter share. Next question. Which of the following describe the function of pooling layers in a CNN? To add non-linearity to the network, example ReLU. To reduce the spatial size of feature maps and provide translational invariance, example max pooling. To increase the depth of feature maps, convolution. To connect all the neurons in the fully connected layer, example fully connected pooling. Yes, so it is used to reduce the spatial size of the feature map and provide translational invariance. One example question. So you have a 4 by 4 matrix 1, 3, 2, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 2, 7, 8, 1, 4, 2, 5. Okay. So you have to apply 2 by 2 max pooling with stride is equal to 2. Then what is the output? Yeah. So the stride is 2. That means when you, sorry. So when the stride is 2, first you take this, find the maximum, that is 6. Then stride is 2 means 1, 2. So then you take this one. 2, 4, 1, 2, maximum is 4. Then 1, 2. So 3, 2, 1, 4, maximum is 4. Again 2, maximum is 8. Another question. So why does average pooling generally lead to smaller, not smaller, smoother feature maps than max pooling? Average pooling uses a larger kernel size than max pooling. Average pooling retains information from all the activations in the window, whereas max pooling discards all but the strongest signal. Average pooling always produces large output feature map. Average pooling has trainable parameters, whereas max pooling does not. So the answer is B. Max pooling will take the maximum value. Now, this is something that is useful to find some sharp edges, for example, some sharp signals, whereas average pooling will take into consideration the activations from all the windows. So it will take a mean of all the window value or all the cell values, so it will produce a smoother or it will retain information from all the activations. Next question. Describe the concept of parameter sharing in CNNs. What are the benefits of this? Each neuron has its own unique set of weights, allowing the neuron to become more powerful. All the neurons share its activation to every layer in the neuron, allowing better flow. The same set of weights is used across different regions of the input, reducing the number of parameters and allowing the model to learn spatially invariant features. Only important neurons are selected for the next set of layers, reducing redundant parameters. Yeah, so the same filter is used across different regions of the input, reducing the number of parameters. One question based on this. Now, for each of this kernel K, there will be one bias parameter also. So that is uh, so that is what is asking here on a grayscale image. So there's a convolutional layer, and it uses a single 5 by 5 filter. And how many trainable parameters does this filter have, including the bias? Yeah, so the 5 by 5 filter will have 25 parameters and then plus the one parameter that is bias. So totally there are 26 parameters. Yeah. So then another topic is this transposed convolution. So so typically this CNN layers, they will have a input layer, then a convolutional layer, followed by some nonlinear activation, and then pooling layer, again convolution layer, followed by a nonlinear activation, again pooling layer. Then finally at the end, some fully connected layer and then output layer. So this is the usual architecture pattern. Then in the video, there are two different types of convolutions that are discussed. So we have the normal convolution that we have come across. Then another two are this dilated convolution and transposed convolution. So, a dilated convolution is you increase the, so you have a 3 by 3 filter, but then you dilate it to get a larger view of the input. So you have only a filter of size 3 by 3, but then you make it big such that you get a good view of the overall input image. That is the, I mean, like a very uh, childish explanation of this. So, if you have a 3 by 3 filter and if you say the dilation rate is 2, then you will have a, you will essentially capture the features like a 5 by 5 filter. So you get a better receptive field view. So most of the time so this, to make this effect, we add some extra rows and columns, and that rows and columns are filled with the value of 0. Actually, there will be, so in this 3 by 3 filter, there are only 9 values. Actually, this only this 9 values will be capturing this input. I mean, it will be looking into the input area, but then the other values will be all 0. But then it gets a bigger representation of the input image. So it's used to capture context without any extra computation. So instead of using a 5 by 5 um, filter, you get somewhat similar results with a 3 by 3 with a dilation rate of 2. So this is usually used in segmentation and all. Then another type of convolution is this transposed convolution. So this is used to increase the size of the feature maps itself. So this is used in encoder decoder networks. So here you insert zeros between the, and you do some zero padding, and then you increase the size of the feature map. So like a upsampling technique by padding zeros. Yeah. So one previous year question is, which of the following statement describe the main purpose of transposed convolution and its typical use? Uh, So to reduce the size of activation for better computational cost, it's typically used in CNNs to act as regularization method and make the model more robust, to increase the size of feature map and improve stability. It's used in generative adversarial network to increase the size of feature map upsampling. It's used in encoder decoder network for tasks like image segmentation. Yeah, so it is mainly used for this upsampling to increase the size of the feature map, and it is used in mostly this encoder decoder networks because it is found to be good for such tasks. One sample question based on this. I don't think it might be used in GAN because in GAN, what you do is you generate something and then you have another model that will tell whether you generated whatever you have generated, is it generated from the true distribution or not? So there is a generator and a discriminator, but then uh, here what you want to do is you want to increase the size of the feature map. So I think it may not be used in GAN, and it might be used in encoder decoder because I don't know if you know about encoder decoder. In encoder decoder, what happens is you are given some input. Uh, it's when you are given some input, it will reduce the size. So for example, there are some models called as autoencoder. You give it some input, it will reduce the input. So for example, I have a image of size 256 by 256. What happens is you give this input, it will go through different layers, for example, convolution layer, followed by max pooling or any average pooling or any, so I'll mark it as C1, P1, again C2, P2. So when you do pooling itself, the size will reduce. So finally you get a very small representation of this 256 by 256 image. Now, uh, you your task here is to identify what are the main content that is not redundant, or what is the main content in the image. So if there are if it is an image of a cat with a lot of noise, then your main content in the image is cat. So to learn that, you use so I'm just saying it as an example. So you can use an autoencoder. So it will learn uh, a very small or lower dimensional representation of the input. So this is called as the latent space. And then from here, so you generated a latent space, but then you also wanted to know uh, that the latent space you generated is good or not, right? Otherwise, you have simply created some small lower dimensional representation of the input 256 by 256. So when it comes here, it will become like 16 by 16. Um, you don't know if this is a good representation of this 256 by 256. So then what you do is you uh, upsample it, or you mm, increase the size of the feature map such that so here you have done pooling. Now there is an opposite operation of this upsampling. So you keep on doing this or deconvoluting, and then finally you get an output that is 256 by 256, which is the same size as that of your input. So this part is called as an encoder and this part is called as a decoder. So here you do an upsampling operation. You increase the feature size. Now, why I told this is, so this this lower dimensional representation you got, but then you want to know whether this is a good representation or not. So you have this 256 by 256 input, and then finally you have generated a 256 by 256 output based on this lower dimensional representation. So if the lower dimensional representation is good, then the error between this 256 by 256 and this input 256 and 256 will be very less. So your optimization function there is to reduce the error between the input and the output for an encoder decoder network. So yeah, so that's why the answer is 4. So to increase the size of feature map upsampling because it's used in encoder decoder network. Okay, now this question. Yeah. So in an encoder decoder network for image segmentation, so in an encoder decoder network, what is the primary role of transpose convolution? It is to increase the size of the feature map that are generated after the encoding phase. That will be a very small representation. So you want to restore that spatial resolution. Then in the video, there are different architectures that are discussed. So starting with, there are many CNN architectures that are discussed in the video. So first one is this LayNet, which was introduced in 1998 by Lekun. So it is one of the first successful CNNs that is used for digit recognition. The MNIST is a digit recognition data set. So it was used for digit recognition task. And I'm not going to draw the architecture, but if you have seen the video, you can recollect that there is a 32 by 32 grayscale image, And then there are convolution layers followed by average pooling. Uh, and then, so there are around three convolution layers, and each convolution layer is followed by a average pooling layer. And finally, at the end, there is a fully connected layer. And then there is an output layer which contains how many neurons? Can you guess? Because it's a digit recognition task. So how many neurons will be there at the output layer? Yeah, 10 neurons will be there, each to represent this value from 0 to 9. So they mentioned that this architecture, it had around 60,000 parameters, and they used average pooling. So there are around 60K parameters, and they used average pooling. And they are the ones who established this convolutional layer followed by pooling, and then again convolutional layer followed by pooling. Finally, one fully connected layer. This pattern was established by them, and so they are one of the pioneers of this CNN architecture, introducing this LayNet network for digit recognition. And then in 2012, this AlexNet was introduced, and uh, this won the 2012 ImageNet Challenge. So ImageNet Challenge is a widely recognized challenge where there will be thousands of classes of images, and the model has to identify the particular class the image belongs to. So the input here was 224 by 224 by 3 image. Some say it is 227 also. And they used 7 layers, that is 5 convolution and 2 fully connected layers. So they also had max pooling. So first layer, it had 96 filters of 11 by 11, and the stride they used was 4. And then max pooling was there, 3 by 3. And then there are intermediate layers, and finally 2 fully connected layers. And the output, there are 1000 classes. So the output layer has 1000 classes. And they are, so the innovations, so this were the innovation from this one. Now for AlexNet, the innovation, the first one was they are the first to use the ReLU nonlinearity, the maximum of 0 comma whatever is the input x. So they are the first one to introduce ReLU. Then they also used dropout regularization. So it is one way to prevent overfitting, where they randomly drop connections between different neurons. They drop the weights between different neurons, such that the model doesn't learn or memorize the patterns. So they randomly drop the connections. And another innovation that they uh, brought in was this data augmentation. So data augmentation is so from the existing data that you have, you artificially create some data. For example, if I have an image, I can simply flip the image. I can rotate the image 45 degree. So those kind of things. Um, so it's just to increase the amount of data such that the model see more amount of data and learn from the patterns. And they are the one who used 2 GPU training, and they got the best error rate till that time. Like it was only the top 5 error rate was only around 15 percentage, which was one of the top during that time. So that was the AlexNet. And then came the BGG net. So the AlexNet uh, was designed by one MS student. I hope he was master students and then a PhD and the professor. Do you know the professor? He won Nobel Prize for something recently. It's Hinton. Maybe you should check in Google. There was a nice article when they won the Nobel Prize. There was a nice article on how they came up with this idea of AlexNet. Maybe you can search in Google. It's available. I think it was available that time that the Nobel Prize was declared. It's interesting to read about that. So then another one was the VGG net, which was introduced in 2014 by a team in Oxford, the Oxford Visual Geometry Group. Again, this was for ImageNet Challenge. So their design philosophy was they included only 3 by 3 filters throughout the entire networks. And then so their architecture, it consists of many blocks, around 5 blocks, which had two convolutional layers, and each of the block had two convolutional layer and a max pooling layers, and finally two fully connected layer and a final output layer, which is 1000 classes. So they had a very large number of parameters. They were not the winner. Uh, They were not the winner, but the winner was Google Net in 2014. But the VGG Net is famous because they are widely used for. So fully connected layer is just the last layer in any convolution network, where the output from the convolution is fully connected to this layer. It's like a simple uh, layer with neurons, just this straightforward WX plus B calculation. So this they didn't win the ImageNet challenge, but then they had they are famous because there are no kernels. It's W into X plus B. It's just weights. It's not a convolution layer. It's just symbol weights. So they are famously used for feature extraction. That's why they are popular. Then GoogleNet is there. So GoogleNet won the 2014 ImageNet challenge. So their main innovation was this inception module. So one issue is you have this convolutional layer, and then in convolutional layer, we discussed that we use a kernel of size k. Now the question is, what kernel size is good? We don't know what kernel size is good. So what filter or what kernel size we should use at each layer? That is what they like their innovative solution was about. So instead of choosing a single filter or kernel size, they used all the convolutional kernel sizes simultaneously, and then left it to backpropagation to decide which of the uh, kernel features are useful or not. So there is this inception module which consisted, I think in the video you can see that there is a module where they use 1 by 1, 3 by 3, 5 by 5. There are different types of kernel that is used to extract features from the image. So this was the one important innovation that Google Net has brought in. Uh, so they they used a one by one. Another one was this. They used kernel of 1 by 1 size. So this means that so this will preserve whatever is the input, it will preserve. But then here, this 1 by 1 convolution, it acts along the depth. So for example, if I have an RGB image 256 by 3, so along this direction, it will act. So the output will be 256 by 256 after this, because it will apply the convolution along the channels or along the depth of the input. So that is why this 1 by 1 convolution was used. So then their architecture, it had taken an input of 224 by 224 by 3, and then they had this different inception module, which takes in different kernels of different size. And then they also used average pooling before the output layer. And they had around 5 million parameters. And they had this top error of around 6.7 percentage. So that is Google Net. Then another was this ResNet. So ResNet was introduced in 2015. So one issue was that when we increase the number of layers, for example, when we have large number of convolutional max pooling, all those layers, and when we do back propagation, the issue was that towards the beginning of the network, the gradients will start to vanish. That means the gradients will become very small and there won't be any update that takes place because the gradients are too small and the change in weight will be very small. So, this is called as the vanishing gradient problem. So we would normally expect that when we have a very large number of layers or very deeper network, we expect that the representations will be better and the model will perform really well. But then it was not the case. When we increased the number of layers, the training layer, like when they increased, the training error also increased and the gradients vanished as the gradients propagated across the different layers. So one solution that they came up with was this thing called as skip connection. So what they do is they copy the input. So there are this input from the previous layers. They copy this input and add it to the some of the layers that are after or comes towards the output layers. So even if the gradients become vanishing, there will be this input, and that input can give you the details about whatever was the input the data is about. So I think this is clear from the video where they show an arrow showing the skip connection. So there is an input connection from the previous layer or the beginning of the input such that the vanishing gradient problem is solved. And this was one of the best network. There were around 65 million parameters and the error was only 3.6 percentage, which was less than human performance. And then finally in 2017 there was this dense net, and this dense net again is kind of like a variation of ResNet, but then here it is like every layer will be connected to every other layer, but so that there are around L into L plus. So if it is a layer L into L plus 1 by 2 connections. Every layer will receive feature map from the preceding layers as input. So that is dense net. Uh, Again, there are some architecture details that are shown. Yeah. So one question is that uh, which of the following is the correct description of significance of one by one convolution used in the inception module of GoogleNet? It allows nonlinear activation to each of the output, allows to reduce the dimension of feature maps, which creates a computational bottleneck and reduces computational cost, tact as a new regularization and provides better generalization, allow to concatenate with prior layer and create better performance. Yeah, so it is used mainly to reduce the dimension of the feature map or the number of channels or the depth. That is why this one by one convolutional layer was introduced. Convolutions was introduced. Another question is, what is the vanishing gradient problem in deep neural network? When the ReLU activation is not enough, the network stops learning. When the initial data is too complex to solve, when the activation is too high, the gradients tend to zero and is not able to learn more. As the network becomes very deep, the gradients become very small and difficult to propagate, resulting in difficulty in optimization. Yeah. So as the network become deep, the gradients will become very small, and the initial layers they will not get a non-zero value of gradient, and there won't be any change in update. So there's a vanishing gradient, and makes it difficult to do the optimization. Which of the following most directly explains how DenseNet architecture facilitates implicit deep supervision? There is a dedicated auxiliary classifier for each layer, direct skip connection to the input layer, shorter paths for gradient flow, concatenation of preceding feature maps at each layer. So in DenseNet, it takes the preceding feature maps from each layer, thereby solving the problem of gradient flow and also better learning of parameter. So it's a direct concatenation of preceding feature maps at each layer. Another last year question was, consider a CNN with an input volume of 64 by 64 by 20, and you need to apply a layer with 16 filters of size 3 by 3. There is a bias term for each filter. How many parameters does this layer contain? So there are the filter size is 3 by 3, and we have 20 feature maps. So in one feature map you have 3 by 3, And then there is bias term also. So 1. And there are 16 filters. So there are 16 filters. So 181 into 16. That is 2896. So there will be uh, one bias term for each uh, filter, and per filter there are 3 by 3 by 20 parameters. So total 181. And then you need 16 such filter. So into 16. One question based on this. So there's a feature map and the shape is 28 by 28 by 512. So a 1 by 1 convolution layer is applied with 64 filter. So 1 by 1 convolution always work along the feature map, that is along the 512 direction, along the depth. So a 1 by 1 convolution will change this part. Now what will it change it to? It will not do any change to this 28 by 28, the spatial size, but then it will change the depth. Yeah, so it is 28 by 28 by 64. So in the preceding layer, your input was 28 by 28 by 512, and you have mentioned that you are using a 1 by 1 convolution, and you also mentioned that in the next layer you want 64 as the output because 64 filters. And when you use a 1 by 1 convolution, there won't be any change in the input nx and ny. So it will be 28 by 28. Only along the dimension of feature maps or channel or depth, the change will take place. Yeah, please ask the question. Uh, so there, so when you use a one by one convolution, uh, there won't be any change in the input. It will only, so you have a nx and ny, and you have features, feature maps. So it will take, so this is one, this is one. So one input it will take, but then the convolution is applied across the depth. So the change will take place along this direction only, not along this direction. And you have mentioned that you need a 64 filters. So the size will be 28 by 28 by 64. Yeah. So which of the following is primary reason regular ANNs are impractical? Uh, yeah. So flattening it into vectors poses large number of weight parameters, and is the reason uh, why it is not practical to use it for. So there is a single hidden layer artificial neural network, and this has 1,000 neurons, and it has an input. It's given an input, and the input size is 256 by 256 by 3. Okay. Then what is the number of weight parameters in that layer? So there is how many weight parameters would a single hidden layer artificial neural network with 1000 neurons need if the input is 256 by 256 by 3. Yeah, so the input is 256 by 256 by 3. And then each of so there are 1000 hidden neurons, 1000 neurons, and each of these 1000 neurons connect to every other neuron in the input layer. So the total weight will be 256. Every other neurons are connected. So 256 by 256 into 3 into 1000. So this is the answer. So this is what we say as this explosion of weight. There will be a large number of uh, weights that we need because of this, each of this neuronal representation. Okay, now so there is a 7 by 7 input, and this is convolved with 3 by 3 filter. There is no padding. Stride is 1. What is the output size? Input is 7 by 7. There's a 3 by 3 filter. No padding. Stride is 1. What is the output? So when the input minus the filter size plus 1. So that is 7 minus 3 plus 1. So that will be 5 by 5. So there is an input 14 by 14, and then you do max pooling with stride 2. What is the output size? So there's a feature map 14 by 14. So for this, the formula is I is the input, K is the filter size, divide by S plus 1, which is the stride. So that is 14 minus 2 divided by stride is 2, so 2 plus 1. So 12 by, sorry, formula is different. So 12 by 2 plus 1, that is 7. So it is 7 by 7. Yeah, so translational invariance, what is it? Is it small shift in input image producing identical pooled output, making the network robust to minor translations? Regardless of the input, the output will always be different. Pooling makes the network invariant to rotations of 90-degree or more. Translational invariance means the network cannot learn from shifted training images. Yeah, so small shift in the input image produces identical pooled output, making the network robust to minor translations. Then I'll wind today's session. So, yeah, so thank you all for attending the session.